วัสดีค่ะ Welcome to Sabai Talk, a podcast about Thai food, Thai culture, and the Thai way of living. My name is Hong Thaimee, a New York City-based chef, and my new tagline, a Harvard Medical School certified health and wellness advocate.
Wow, look at that. You've got a new tagline today.
Fancy me.
And I am Pailin, chef, YouTuber, and creator behind Hot Thai Kitchen. I do not have a new tagline today, but tell us about your new tagline. What's going on?
Well, I have been very, how should I say this? I find the true meaning of health is wealth. Okay,
Mhm.
because the last 2 years
You
has
mean the
been
true
spent.
meaning of wealth is health?
Did I just say it?
You said it the other way around, but
Oh my
but I
goodness.
think we know.
It also shows I really need to work on my brain health too. So yes, I just feel that the true meaning of a wonderful life is you have to have a wonderful health
Yes.
to support that.
Yes.
And in order to have that, you have to start with a good lifestyle, eating well, exercise, stress management, and stuff like that. And then when I saw an opportunity to be trained at Harvard Medical School, I jumped at it and I spent half of my last year studying hard. And
Mm,
finally, I passed the test. Woohoo!
awesome. And so the certificate is for healthy, sustainable living?
Correct. Health and wellness, sustainability.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So for those of you who don't know, my bachelor's degree is actually in nutritional science. And so now you and I are both somewhat knowledgeable when it comes to nutrition.
It's what I find after studying the course, I have found that it is it's like a never ending, knowledge. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like
Yeah.
like you get to the point and then you have to like study further so you can understand more.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yet it is very applicable.
Yes.
I have
Yeah.
used the knowledge and then changed into my lifestyle.
Hmm.
And my doctor has, like been giving me, a tap on my shoulder and say, great job.
That's awesome.
Everything, the numbers, like when I have my blood test, everything is
Hmm.
better.
Yeah. It really
So,
does make a big difference. Um, it's funny when I switched from nutritional sciences to studying to becoming a chef, like studying
mhm,
cooking, which are
mhm.
actually, it sounds related, but they're really very different things. And I think it was my dad who said, "So you went from studying food inside your body to studying food outside of your body." And I said, "Yeah, basically, because cooking is like nutrition is the study of food after you've eaten it, right? Like
Mhm,
what
mhm.
happens after you've eaten the thing." But I'm like, switch to, well, forget about what happens after you eat it. Let's just deal with the food before you eat.
But you know what is much more interesting about this class? I mean, this course per se, is that we talk about the lifestyle, what
Yeah.
make you healthier, and food is only part of it.
Yes. Oh my God. Sleep is so important,
Yes, yes.
of which I did not get enough yesterday. So if I start talking nonsense, that would be why.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, get some coffee or some good green tea. Perk you up.
Yeah, I mean, I had enough sleep hours, but it was terrible quality because I had too much to drink last night.
Oh dear. You
Yeah.
start drinking since when?
I know. No, it's not like I went partying. Like if you know me, that is like not on my list of things to do at all. But we had our wedding anniversary dinner yesterday,
Oh,
and
congrats.
they had a really good sommelier at the restaurant, and he was so convincing. And I ended up drinking 2 glasses, and then because it was a special occasion, they gave us like, a complimentary half glass of another wine, and then like a complimentary. There was just so much that I normally don't drink that much. So it ended up being probably an equivalent of 3 drinks, which for me is like
A whole
way
lot,
too much.
but yes.
But anyway, it was delicious and I had a good time. And you know what? If you're gonna drink when there's a sommelier who's recommending the good quality, high quality. So you're not just wasting all this, alcohol intake on cheap booze, right? So I feel like it was worthwhile. I can give up one good night of sleep for that. But tonight I am just gonna take it easy.
Oh.
Anyway, that was a long digression from what we are actually going to talk about today, which is Masaman Curry, one of Thailand's most famous dishes is
Hmm.
Masaman Curry, or what we call gang Masaman. So today we'll talk about what it is, its history. There's actually quite a lot to say in the history department. And of course, we're going to share our tips for making Masaman at home. But first, Pihong, I would love to know if you have a Masaman memory that you want to share with us.
My family, it's quite, we have quite interesting background. My mom is from Central Thai, right? But
Uh huh.
then my grandfather moved them to Pattani, which is down south.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember this clearly that parents, and not my parents, my aunt and my mom always say, "Oh, what we're gonna have for dinner tonight? We're gonna have masaman." And I
Mm.
was just thinking, so that is part of our, like part of our menu, part of our like everyday easy home meal cook that we have at home. And
Mm-hmm.
especially my
Mm-hmm.
mom, my aunt, my third aunt, yeah, the youngest from my mom. She's a wonderful cook, and she makes it so. And when we talk about this dish, I still remember her, you know, her voice lingering in my head. Oh, tonight we're gonna have masaman gai. It's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
Yeah. Um, for me, I think Masaman was the first curry I ever cooked.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, because it I distinctly remember learning about the separation of coconut milk when cooking Masaman curry.
Uh huh.
And the reason is so I probably would have been, I don't know, 10 or 12 at this point. And the reason it's Masaman is because Masaman is one of the least spicy curries, right? In Thai cuisine. Usually it's not very spicy. And so for kids, like it's one of the curries that they can first eat. And so I remember learning how to make a curry and witnessing the what we call kati tek man, or the coconut separating the coconut oil separating from the coconut, and going, wow, that is so cool. And it was masaman curry. It was I grew up in the south, so masaman is very much a southern dish. And so it was a very common dish that we have, and we typically would make it with chicken, because when you're cooking at home, chicken takes the least amount of time to cook, right? If you cook beef or whatever, then it would take longer. So for a quick weeknight meal, masaman kai or masaman chicken was a frequent item on our table.
Also, in southern part of Thailand, there's the most, condensed majority of Muslim community.
Hmm. Yeah.
And this dish has some Muslim influence
Yes. Which we
into
will
it.
get into in a little bit.
Yeah.
But first, for people who are unfamiliar, what exactly is masaman? So I like to describe masaman as being different from a lot of other curries in two distinct ways. The
Mhm.
first way is that it uses a ton of dry spices. So like cinnamon, star anise, cloves, like so many different dry spices. Whereas other curries such as red curry, green curry, they're all heavier on the fresh herbs, and the
Mhm.
use of dry spices is either not there, or for some recipes it's just a little bit here and there. But so Thai cuisine is more of a herb based cuisine rather than a spice based cuisine. But masman is different because it's a as you will find out in a little bit, it came from somewhere else. And then number 2, the thing that makes it different is that it is a long braise. So with green curry, you can just drop some chicken in, let it cook, and then pull it off. It's done. You drop some fish in, it's cooked, it's done. It can be done in a few minutes. Masaman is something you have to let a tough cut of meat slowly cook until it's fall off the bones tender and the sauce becomes thicker and all this stuff. So you don't make a masaman with shrimp, right? Like you just that's not a thing. I mean, you can, I guess, but that's not a thing that we do. It's a long braise curry.
Mhm. One time I visited Phuket, and I was a guest of a hotel property that,
Mm-hmm.
wanted me to see their new location. And the local chef took me to a goat farm.
Mm.
And then like took some pieces home and braised masaman with goat.
Oh, I love Masaman goat. It's hard to find. You
It's
have to
hard to
go to like a Muslim restaurant in order
Yes.
to get that. But
Uh-huh.
man, it's so good.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So I mean that's what it is. Like that's how we do it. We get the cut that would braise quite well and
Mm-hmm.
let the
Mm-hmm.
spices and let's say heat
Mm-hmm.
soften the meat. And
Yes.
imagine that's probably why it is so well loved. Don't you think? It is kind of like
Yeah.
umami-ish with spice and the
It's
texture of
so
it. It's
yeah,
just comforting.
and it's so flavorful that I can't imagine anyone having that and saying, "No, I don't like that." Like it's like how could you not like it? It's so delicious and it doesn't have any sort of flavors that's an acquired taste. So when
Mhm.
people ask me like, "Oh, I'm cooking for somebody who's new to Thai cuisine," there are usually a few go-to dishes that I recommend and masaman is one of them because I know they're going to love it even if they've never had any Thai curry before.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And so yeah, so in you mentioned goat, which is interesting because in the West, lamb is the more like something that people also braise with. And I
Yep.
thought about why don't we have masaman lamb in Thailand? And then it dawned on me, sheep don't live in Thailand. It's way too hot.
It is expensive because if you wanna have lamb, you
You
have
have
to
to
the cut is
import.
imported
Yeah.
from Australia, and it's too expensive.
Yeah, it was so funny for a while. I was like, why don't we have Masaman lamb? And like, oh, right. We don't. Sheep would die in the heat of Thailand. So goats will survive because they don't have that thick coat.
And another good
Ah,
like, another good note I'm so sorry, and another, observation is that you would never, ever see masaman with pork.
yes, yes.
Mm-mm. It's a
Because
big no,
it's like
because
disrespectful because the root of this dish is a Muslim dish. Not that you couldn't do it in the comfort of your own home, but I never do it because it just feels wrong. Like it just feels like you've like done something taboo. Even if I eat pork, it just feels like no, 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 no. That is wrong. You just don't do that. Just to respect the root of the dish. Um, so we've talked about masaman being considered a Thai Muslim dish,
Mhm,
and the southern part of Thailand is where there are the most number of Muslims. So
mhm,
that's why masaman is sort of also considered a southern dish, even though or at least it's like more common in the south, I would say. Even though it's eaten all over the country, I would say that the south has more of it because of the Muslim population. And I found it interesting when I started learning French that the word for Muslim is musulman, which is very similar to Masaman, which then I found out that that's probably where the name came from
mhm.
because I think in the Persian language, the word for Muslim is, I forget what it is now, but it's
Same
very
thing.
close to
It's
Masaman.
very close to it.
Yeah,
Maslama.
yeah,
My apologies, if I don't pronounce that right, but
right.
it's quite similar to the
Yeah.
French. Yeah.
And fun fact in the South, some people call it Salaman instead of
Ah.
Masaman. Yeah. And I think it might, I don't know, it's just probably like in Thai, we call it pien, where a word gets spoken and then it just turns into another word because it's easier to say. So Salaman in the South is also Masaman curry.
We should put a disclaimer here. This podcast is thoroughly from two Thai chefs' point of view
Mm.
about the dish that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is a masaman from the eye of these two Thai chefs that have made it
Yes.
in North America.
Yes. So let's touch on the history a little bit because it's a little bit interesting why masaman is different from, say, red curry, green curry, the more native local curries. And I was looking up the history and it appears to be two different theories. Like nobody
Hmm.
really knows exactly where it came from. But the two theories is that the first one, it came from the Malay people, which is south of Thailand. So that's Malaysia, Indonesia. And that would explain why it's associated with Muslims as well, because those countries are also Muslim countries. So it came from the Malay people through the south. And then the second is through the Persians, with whom we had contact in the 1600s. And if you look and if you know about Persian food, you would see a lot of similarities in flavors with Persian food and Massaman curry, all the spices, the braising, and of course the name that we talked about.
I put the two together,
Yeah.
okay? You say you study French, and I think the
Uh-huh.
Frenchie was the first one that came to Thailand through the
Were they the
missionary.
first?
I think so. I
Okay.
think like they came, and that's probably why we started to hear how do you now I can my brain's gonna speak German to you. But how do you pronounce that term again? Masala
Musulman. Musulman.
Musurmum.
Yeah.
Musurmum. That's probably
So
how it started.
yeah, and it's interesting that you're talking about French because our word for white people is farang. And it's not a derogatory term or anything. It's just like this is how we describe
Hmm.
people, Caucasians. And farang is short for Français, which is France or French.
Francis.
Français, which is
Oui.
French,
Uh-huh.
français. And if you were to write like the word français written out, you write that in Thai, you would get français, right? Français, français. Like so I just find it interesting. Anyway, that's a bit of a side note, but the use of dry spices is interesting also because that came to Thailand apparently from India. So all these cinnamon spices, ginger, and all this stuff came to Thailand from India, but not from Indian people. It's via the Portuguese who were traveling the world around that time. And then this would be 1600s during the reign of King Narai. I think he's called Narai the Great in English. And so the Portuguese sort of brought the spices into Thailand, and also the use of coconut milk in curries and savory food is also likely came to Thailand from the southern Indian culture of using coconut milk as well. Apparently, we've been using coconut milk in desserts for a long time, but we never used it in curries and savory food until we got the idea from southern Indian cuisine.
Hmm.
Mm.
Love this. I love tidbits of, history. It's just mesmerizing to dig deeper into. Don't you
And it's
think?
not that long ago. Like when I look at the dates, it's like, man, that's like 1600s. It's only a few hundred years ago. Like, on the grand scheme of things, I feel like that's so recent. It's a long time ago, but also it's not like, 2000 years ago or something. So a lot of Thai food that we associate with Thai food today is so recent, so new. Like pad Thai, we've talked about it. That's like very, very recent in history. Um, which which kind of goes to tell you how much a cuisine evolves with
All the
time,
time. All
you
the time. And
know?
we
Yeah.
talked about it earlier. Like, what exactly is Thai food? I
Mm-hmm.
think we just mix of everything and we make it our own with
Yes,
pride,
exactly. Yes,
right?
with our palates, with the bias of
Yeah.
our palate. Like a lot of
So,
Thai food is just Chinese food, but modified to make it more palatable for Thai people, spicier, stronger, there's more acid and all this stuff.
mhm.
But like a lot of Thai dishes are almost like a direct translation from Chinese food.
Exceptข้าวผัดอเมริกัน We should
American
talk about
fried
that.
rice. We should do that for 4th of July. It's like
Oh my
American
God, how
fried
fun would that
rice.
be? Like all
Hmm.
the, yeah, all the
But
cultural tips and facts that we can have fun with. Anyway, going back, so you say that it's 16th century, no, 18th century, 17th
no,
century.
17th century, 1600s. This
Correct.
always confuses me, but yes, the
No.
1600s
So
is
that
the
is,
17th century.
yeah, Narai the Great. And that was when Ayutthaya was the capital of Thailand,
Hmm.
right?
I don't know,
Yes.
actually.
Yes, yes, it was.
My knowledge of Thai history is pretty bad. So if you say so, I will
Yes, it
accept.
was Ayutthaya before they moved to Thonburi and then Bangkok.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you were going to talk about Masaman in poetry because Masaman is actually well known
Oh,
as being part of a very famous poem in Thailand. And this poem was written by King Rama II, who was apparently a big foodie, and he composed lots of poetry that was related to food. And then one of the most famous ones is mentions Masaman. So
yes.
can you tell me
So,
about
I
that?
mean, your first question in this episode, you asked me what is my memory of Masaman.
Mm-hmm.
Another kind of like vivid memory is that, oh my goodness, I study about this dish in a Thai language class through
Mm.
the poem. Well, guys, I have this Mae Kua Hua Pa, which is the first Thai cookbook ever written
She's holding
by
up the
Tan
book for
Yin
those of you
Priyan.
who are listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the poem goes. มัสมั่นแกงแก้วตาหอมยี่หร่ารสร้อนแรงชายใดได้กลืนแกงแรงอยากให้ใฝ่ฝันหา It's not very
Mm.
not very ladylike of me reading like that. Maybe I should like read it
Can you
softer, but
can you translate or you want me to translate?
well, we can help each other.
Um,
Why don't you go first?
sure. So it's basically saying Masaman
My
Homira
darling,
means is
my darling,
Homir.
yeah, my darling Masaman.
Yes,
The
my
the
darling
smell of the
Masaman.
cumin.
You're so fragrant of cumin and you've got strong flavors, like rot strong flavors. And if any
Fierce.
man would come and eat the masaman, he would he would fall in love with it and would crave it again and
Yeah,
again,
yeah,
right?
you got it.
Basically.
Yeah,
And
you
of
got it.
course it's
So
like women cooking the masaman and this is how you would lure men, I guess. I don't know if that was the
well,
intention
I think it's
of the
quite modern because until today, like what, 600 years after, was it five? No, 400 years.
Mm,
We still say that the way
yeah,
to one's heart is through
the
his or her
stomach.
stomach.
Yeah, so you can capture men by delicious masaman because it's
I
so
like the way you said. So, yeah, so that was a poem that was written by King Rama II.
yeah.
Now we moved from Ayutthaya to
Yeah,
Bangkok.
so this
And
would have
that
been
is, yeah,
1800s now. Yeah,
something like that.
early
And
1800.
and imagine how King Narai loved this dish so much and made it as part of the Thai royal etiquette and royal cuisine. I
Mhm.
imagine back then eating probably kind of like in Europe too, right?
Mhm.
Eating are meant for entertaining,
Mhm.
probably for like, those who have money and can afford that, right? And
Mhm.
the peasant just, fry fish in the river and just grill and have it with rice,
Exactly. And
probably.
I mean if you look at masaman and what it's made of and how it's made, you can't be a peasant and make masaman. First of all, spices weren't cheap. Like the
Mm-mm.
spices you had to be,
Mhm.
aristocracy or something to afford all the spices
I wish
and
I
big
wish
cuts
we
of
could
meat.
insert. Yeah, I wish we could insert this picture on YouTube. Maybe we'll try. But look at that. Look at the kitchen picture in the old days.
Mm.
You have the chef who dress up so lovely and just tell people what to do in the kitchen.
Yes, you have to tell all
You
the
cook by
minions
telling
what to
people what
do.
to do.
That's what my mom does. She just goes in the kitchen, points her
Second
finger, and
driver,
is like, and
second-hand
tells
driver.
tells
No,
the
backseat
maid,
driver. Yeah.
yeah, can do this, do this. Um, and so yeah, so big cuts of meat, long braising, the use of spices. I mean, this is not something a peasant could afford to do, right? They're just
No.
taking, as you said, fish from the river or frogs from the paddies and just
Yep.
grilling them and
No.
eating them.
Aren't we lucky that
So
we're born in
yeah.
this, time of the world that we can just go
Yes.
to a supermarket and we can cook whatever we want and we can afford to eat.
Yes, and
I
that
feel so
food,
blessed.
there's so few foods that are guarded for the ultra rich. Like, I wouldn't afford caviar or anything like that, but for the most part, we can afford to eat anything.
And like
If not all the
recently,
time, maybe sometimes for a
yeah.
special occasion. But there was a time where if you weren't in the palace, you
Mhm.
literally will not be able to experience certain kinds
Mhm.
of food.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we're very
Yeah, food
lucky.
security could be
Mm-hmm.
um a disease.
Yeah.
Imagine that you cannot get, the right
Yes.
nutrients and everything to your
Yes.
body. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Or
we've
you could
learned
argue
Masaman.
you could
Go ahead.
argue that they were healthier because they didn't overeat all the
Probably.
sugar and the fat that the
Like every time
yeah.
when I see on Thai soaps, how much we can trust that, right? But when we see it from a Thai lacon,
Thai
like all the
soap operas, yeah.
yeah, Thai soap operas. I only see people so fit working in the field, and they have all the six packs and everything. I'm like,
Mhm,
that
mhm.
must be true because
Oh, I
they
bet.
work all day, right?
Yes. And they eat only like lean meats and vegetables, and it's all like very healthy. There's no sugar, like they can't afford desserts, you know? So they were probably way healthier than we are these days.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we know that Masaman has a long history in Thailand. It
Mhm.
used more spice than just fresh
Mhm.
curry paste.
Yeah.
And the king wrote the poem for it.
Mhm. Exactly. So there's interesting history there. Now, I want to move on to tips for making great masaman at home.
Hmm.
Pihong, what do you have any tips to share?
Think about bracing.
Mhm.
Anything that it would take time to brace
Yes.
is a wonderful protein for it.
Yes.
You know, cooking tips. I mean, once you know how to braise, you fine. Okay, get good
Mhm.
quality cut of meat, right?
Mhm.
And then be patient.
Yes. It takes time.
Yeah.
If you don't have patience, go with chicken dark meat.
Mm-hmm.
Do
Mm-hmm.
not braise chicken breasts. Okay? It's too
There's
lean.
no fat. Yeah.
It will I mean you can do it, but what you'll end up with like would be like shreds of dry chicken breast. It's just not good, okay? Like chicken dark meat, only thighs and drumsticks. When I
Mm-hmm.
was growing up in Hat Yai, most of the time we did drumsticks.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's easy to portion out for the kids,
And you would
like
see
here,
that
yeah.
too. Chicken with drumstick masaman in the Lan Khao Gang.
Yes, in the like street side curry
Yeah.
shops.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because drumsticks are cheaper than thighs because they're smaller and it's
Mm-hmm.
easier to just like each person gets one drumstick or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's an easier cut to sell.
Yeah.
So we did that a lot. And drumsticks are full of collagen. And when you braise collagen, it goes into the broth and it makes this broth super rich. You know, when you put something in the fridge and it turns into jello, that is collagen from the meat dissolving into gelatin. And that is how you get rich broths. It could be soup or curries in this case. But when things gel up in the fridge, you know it's good.
Do you make
Yeah.
your own paste or store bought just fine for you with you?
So I do a hybrid. I do what I call a semi-homemade Massaman curry paste, and this is
Mm-hmm.
on my website and also in my book Sabai. And basically, my issue is this: I have no problem with store-bought Massaman paste, but for me, it's actually harder to find because most of the time I can only get red, green, and yellow.
Mm-hmm.
But then I've discovered that masaman shares the same base as red curry paste. So what I
Mm-hmm.
do is I take store-bought red curry paste and then I add all the spices that
Mm-hmm.
masaman has and it comes out so good. And in
Awesome.
fact, I can modify the ratios, like I can use a lot more spices to make the flavor more intense. And so I find it to be a really handy thing cuz unless you have like a pretty extensive stock of Asian ingredients, you probably not be able to get specifically masaman curry paste for many
Mm-hmm.
people. But red curry paste you can find anywhere. Like they have that at Walmart,
Yes.
right?
Oh,
Yeah.
I am so, how should you say that? I'm quite excited these days that I see all these Thai staples in
Mm-hmm.
a local American supermarket.
Yes. It's
Last night,
amazing how much. Yeah.
yeah, okay. Somehow this week and next two probably going to be super cold in New York City. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of going pick up my grocery, I order online and I look on Whole Food
Mm-hmm.
website. They have masaman, they have red curry paste, they have green curry paste. And I'm
Mm.
like, this is marvelous. Like
Yeah.
20
Yeah.
years ago, who would have thought that
Yes.
these days you can find, you can cook fresh Thai food, meaning Thai food can be part of your everyday menu.
Yeah,
Isn't
totally.
that awesome?
Yeah, and if you live in a big city, obviously you're gonna have a lot more. But keeping in mind, if you're buying your red curry paste at Whole Foods, it's gonna cost double what it will cost in an Asian grocery store.
True, but the brand that they have, it's not
Yeah,
that. They probably have to standardize the price. I'm not gonna
yeah.
tell when, but I was just so, surprised in a good way. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, "Oh, wow." I think that, maybe our contribution to Thai food, it
Yes, you
works.
know what? Hey, I think about this all the time. Like every month, I get, I don't know, 1.5, 2 million views on my YouTube videos. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Not including my website. And I'm thinking of those people, how many people will now go out and buy Thai ingredients, right? It'll be a percentage
Crazy.
of that. And so that means that I'm driving Thai ingredient sales from stores. And it's probably resulting in stores realizing, oh, you know what? The Thai stuff is going faster. Let's stock more things. Like and I'm pretty sure I have some impact on the number of stores carrying these things. I
Maybe the
remember
government maybe the government should give you a dam. Dam
dam
Pailin.
ไพลินคุณหญิง
I
ไพ
don't know
ลิน
คุณหญิงค่ะคุณหญิงไพลิน
dam ไพลิน for doing a service to the Thai economy. Driving product sales. So I remember the first video that I did recommending coconut milk. I realize we're on a tangent here, but just stick with me. I was talking about what coconut milk to use for Thai cooking, and I said I recommend this UHT carton อร่อยดี coconut from Thailand. I'm not
Have they
sponsored.
paid you?
No, they've never paid
Alright, I'm
me.
gonna
It's
make some
fine.
phone calls for you อร่อยดีค่ะช่วยโทรหาไพลินด้วยค่ะ
No, it's fine. I've been recommending them for years. I don't need their money. In fact, I will refuse because I don't want my recommendation to be questioned. Like, oh, she's only recommending it because they're paying her. It's like, no. Coconut milk is such an important ingredient. It's like I don't want my recommendation to be tainted with questions about whether I'm serious. Anyway, so after I released that video, somebody in the comments said, I work at an Amazon warehouse and these coconut milk are just flying off the shelf at
Isn't that
their
awesome?
warehouse.
Wow.
Yeah.
You should be
And so
very proud
people
of your
were
work. That's
buying.
awesome. That is awesome.
Anyway, going back to what we were talking about is Masaman curry paste. So yes, if you can't find Masaman curry paste, that hack works really, really well. The recipe is on my website. You can look up semi-homemade Masaman curry paste, and you can do that with a number of different curry pastes. If you have my book Sabai, I have that in a ton of recipes, is taking store-bought red curry paste and modifying it. My second tip for Masaman is, okay, so in the first one, we make sure you use the right protein. The protein needs to be braise friendly. That means chicken dark meat, beef, lamb, anything that would take hours to cook is great. No seafood, no shrimp, no chicken breast,
And no
things like
pork.
that. And no pork.
Just to be
Even though you
respectful.
could theoretically braise pork, just out of respect of the history of this dish, no pork. And then the second tip, and I kind of learned this in the beginning in looking at older Thai recipes, is when they braise beef for masaman, they braise it separately from the curry sauce. So they'll take the beef and then they'll braise it in like a diluted, like just some water
Mhm.
with a little bit of curry paste
Nice. Yep.
and let that go for like 3 hours.
Yep.
Meanwhile, they make the sauce with the coconut milk and the curry paste fresh,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
then they combine the two. And now you might be wondering, well, why don't you just throw everything in the pot and do it all in one go? And you can, but the reason this is the way it's traditionally done is back in the day, beef used to have a very gamey flavor, right?
Mhm.
Strong, gamey flavor. And Thai people don't like gamey flavor. So
Mhm.
cooking the beef outside of the curry sauce is a way to not introduce too much of that flavor
Mhm.
into the finished dish. The benefit number two is you shorten the amount of time because you can have two things going at the same time. So it actually
Mm-hmm.
saves time. So you can let the beef cook and make the sauce separately. Um, and also, the resulting dish is much more beautiful because when you cook beef directly in the sauce, all the brown gunk comes out. And I mean, it's fine. Like brown food is delicious, but um, the resulting dish will not be as bright red and beautiful as the finished dish. There is some theory. I thought about this, like, can you overcook curry paste? Like, if you let it cook for 3 hours, does that curry paste actually lose some flavor because it's been like simmering and evaporating for so long? So, is there also some benefit in that you don't overcook the curry paste, so you end up having more flavor in the dish by separating the two processes?
For me, I want to add on to that theory. I find, especially, we used to serve this in our restaurant.
Yeah.
I find like when I braise it separately,
Yeah.
the curry does not break. It holds well.
Mm.
Because
Mm.
imagine if you keep on braising coconut milk for a
Yeah.
long, long, long time, it breaks too much. And then you have to kind of like fix it again before
Right. Like, and there's so much
before you serve.
oil and fat
Correct.
from the meat too, not just the oil from
Correct.
the coconut
Yeah.
milk. From the oil from the meat
Mm-hmm.
comes out in the curry, and then you get huge amount of fat floating at the top. Like, we want a little bit of fat floating at the top for presentation, but like you don't want like an inch of it, which can happen if you braise directly in the curry sauce. Yeah.
True. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you like to put the crunchiness part in it? Because some people love having peanuts
Oh yeah,
and
always.
tomato no potatoes.
Potatoes, a must for me. Peanuts, I always put, but I don't consider it a must. But yes, peanuts, um, but not too early in the process because they get soggy.
Mm-hmm.
So that they're still crunchy. You can like leave it out altogether and sprinkle it at the end if you really want the crunchiness. But I do think the peanuts are important. Potatoes, always. I love the potatoes. It's because they absorb so much of the flavor of the curry. Now, the question I have for you is, do you like regular potatoes or sweet potatoes in your masaman?
I do both. Depends on
Mm-hmm.
what I have on my counter. Again, my household is Anglo-American or Anglo-Thai, pretty much. um, Asian. So potato is part of the starch that we have at home.
Yeah,
And
you just have potatoes at home all the time.
yeah, so we rotate. So we rotate between, regular potatoes and sweet potatoes because I love sweet
Mm,
potatoes so much. It's just a good snack, but Connor
yes,
he's not a fan of sweet potatoes, so
because he's Irish. That's
he's too
why.
Irish for that.
He's too
Yes.
Irish for that. So I actually prefer regular potatoes in
Mm-hmm.
Masaman, but I recognize that for some people, sweet potato is good. Now, if you're going to do sweet potato, make sure it is not the red, orange sweet potatoes. Those
Mm-hmm.
are really, they're more sort of watery and fibrous. I
This
feel
is
like
healthier. It just have more. It
it is
have less
healthy.
starch. It have less starch and more
Fiber.
fibers.
Yeah. But for Masaman, the yellow one is better. It's
Mm-hmm.
starchier, it's denser, it just
Homier.
and that's like in Thailand, it would be the yellow one. We don't have the orange yams as people like to call it that people have here. So go with yellow sweet potatoes. Either is okay. I feel like the sauce is sweet enough that I prefer regular potatoes. In fact, maybe that's what we're going to do. I still have potatoes sitting in my kitchen left over from Christmas. I don't know. It's
And
probably all sprouted now. I'm like, I don't know what to do with these. Like, we're not a potato consuming household.
once in a while, I have to have some kind of potato on a dinner table. I'm not
Or
complaining.
your partner would like complain. He's
He
like,
was like, "Oh, I
I'm
miss
losing my
potato. Can we have
Irish
something?"
citizenship.
Well, the funny part is anyway, we don't have to talk about him, but um, sweet potato and masaman. You would
Mm,
love this. What I'm about to tell you.
mm,
In my first restaurant, when we first opened, one of the top seller, and you know me, I cook modern Thai food.
yeah.
I changed masaman into a pot pie.
Yeah,
And
you love to do your pot pies. That sounds
but
good.
instead of serving it with puff pastry, I put roti on the top.
Oh,
Imagine
interesting.
we make a mashed potato with sweet potato, so mashed sweet potato.
Yeah.
Okay. We braise the whole leg of lamb and
Uh-huh.
then we pull
Mm.
all the, meat apart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Fry the garlic, no, shallots on the top,
Mm-hmm.
cover with the mashed potatoes and then the roti and serve alongside with ajad. It
Wow.
flew out of the kitchen. Like we sold so much
Wow.
of it. It was
Oh,
so decadent. It was so good.
you have to make that for me now. Oh, you know what reminds me is it would then make a very good shepherd's pie,
Yes, it would.
right?
And I think that it would, I mean, for those who love Thai flavors, this dish again would incorporate with, any other
Mm-hmm. Yes.
meat dish, right? Shepherd pie would do so well.
Yeah.
Anything pot pie would do so well. What else? Even serve on top of spaghetti, I know is a little bit of
Mm.
like and it takes some adventure,
Yeah.
it is you have to have some kind of like adventurous mind because you may not used to that, but I'm sure it tastes well on top of pasta.
So on my website, I have three Masaman modified recipes. I did this in a series. It was a Masaman burger,
Mm-hmm. That would
Masaman
do. Mm-hmm.
meatballs, and
Mm-hmm.
Masaman meatloaf. I think I did that as a project from Canada Beef where they wanted me to use ground beef in
Mm-hmm.
a Thai way. And so I did like three recipes, basically ground beef mixed with Massaman curry paste, but
Mm-hmm.
in different shapes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meatballs, burgers, what was the other thing I said? Meatloaf. And my God, the burger is so good. The Masaman burger is so good. And I think what I did is so there's Masaman curry paste in the patties, but also I made a really concentrated Masaman curry sauce and put that on as like the burger sauce.
This
Yeah, so
podcast
good.
is so torturing, right? Every time we talk about food, I'm like salivating and I'm thinking, man, it's 5 o'clock and I wish I could
uh
have it now.
I think with my sprouting potatoes, if they're still usable, I'm going to make a Masaman shepherd's pie or something.
Mm.
That
Yeah,
would
send
be
me the
good.
picture.
Yeah,
And
if
I will
yeah.
say Masaman, it basically if you can infuse that flavor, it would be fun. A
Mhm.
hand pie or a curry puff, anything,
Oh, curry puff
or
would be
a
great.
pulled beef sandwich.
Yes, yes. So you braise whatever beef and you shred it and then you toss it with, oh my God, in a taco would be great
Mm,
as
mhm.
well. Yeah, I mean, it's just got a
Pizza.
flavor that just goes so well with so many things.
It
It's,
will go on
yeah.
and on because it's, in some way it's quite easy to think about, because of flavor from the spice that you
Mm-hmm.
infuse into the
Mm-hmm.
protein. You can't go wrong with it, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Okay. Any other comments before we wrap up?
Well, Masaman, darling. Maybe for those who are looking for a true friendship, relationship, dating guide, this could be a tip for those of you. Just make them Masaman.
The
Maybe you can
take
close the deal.
So the takeaway of this podcast is if you are single and looking to win over somebody with your cooking skills, masaman is the dish to make. Whether it's, even though the poetry only talks about men, I'm sure it would work for women as well.
The knees are weakened, you know,
Yeah, there we
the
go.
exactly the mind would open and the heart would soften up because of bowl of
Mm-hmm.
Masaman.
Yes, yes.
Here we go.
All right. So for me, if you want to get in touch with us, you can write in at sabaitalk at hongtaime.com. You can tell us your Masaman stories if you'd like. And you can get in touch with me. I'm at Hot Thai Kitchen on Instagram, Pailin's Kitchen on YouTube, and my website where all the recipes are, including all kinds of Masaman recipes, is on hotthaikitchen.com.
And as for me, is Hong Taimee on Instagram, Pinterest, and I start a YouTube channel now teaching you how to eat healthier with a Thai twist.
Yes, you got to definitely check that out. And your YouTube channel is Hong Thaimee, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Sounds good. Well, thank you everybody for listening, and we will see you next time. สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ And Pailin, I think you have to drink some more. That is the best cure for hangover.
You
You
mean
know that,
drink
right?
more water or drink more
No,
alcohol?
drink more alcohol. That's what brunch is for, you know?
And you have a wellness certification, you say.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, bye.